What do you sound like? I don't mean all the licks, tricks and repertoire that you practiced. I mean, what is your unique musical voice? This video is about helping you discover exactly that. Hi, I'm Dylan Kay, one-finger guitarist. I help guitar players start playing slide guitar, and if you play slide already, I can help you play even better. If you're a Patreon subscriber, there's bonus footage, behind the scenes stuff. Please check out the link below if you'd like to become a patron. Let's get into the video. The audience wants to hear you. At a certain point, I believe you need to give yourself permission to actually be you. Play the way that you play. So what do you sound like? You have to put the work into finding you. This has to be a conscious process. It's liberating when you start thinking like this. You can liberate yourself from what the instrument traditionally does. So for instance, slide guitar. Imagine you're playing a resonator and, it's associated with traditional kind of Delta blues stuff or Hawaiian music. Why does it have to be that? Why can't you play avant-garde jazz on it like Dave Tronzo does? Why do you have to have that pigeonholed and just work within those confines? So question everything firstly. And then you need to dare to be different, to find your voice, to do something out of the ordinary. This is so important, and a key point here is that we spend so much of our time practicing for what's lacking in our playing rather than spending time finding out what we have to say personally. So the process I'm going to look at and some of the exercises I'm going to go through are all about instinct first and analysis second. Now this can be very hard for engineering or scientific based type people who really want to understand everything to the nth degree. And I utterly respect that and I understand that. But at a certain point you have to put the analytical side away and just play by instinct and trust that all the work you've done up to this point is in there and it's going to come out when you play. Music theory is really there. It's like the rules of grammar. It doesn't teach you what to say. It helps train your ear, and that's very important. But it's not going to show you what you need to do to play. So you have to trust that you've done all that work and, on your technique and on every side of your musical skills. But then at a certain point, you just have to let go and get out of your own way. That's the secret. There's a beautiful phrase, for art to appear, we need to disappear. That's the essence of all of this, and it's hard. And this is why I've made this video, and this is why I'm going to go through some practical steps that you can take to achieve this. I'd like to just give you a few quotes, which I'll need to read to make sure I get them right. But I think these sum up a lot of what I'm trying to say here. So the first one is from the painter Henry Miller, and the quote is, "Paint as you like and die happy." The next one is from Hundertwasser. "When a painter asks me how he should find himself, the simple answer, go on from where you were forced to stop dreaming as a child." So it's about recovering that innocence. When you pick up the guitar for the first time and you know nothing, you approach the instrument in such a different way than if you've been practicing all the right stuff for years and years. And I speak from very personal experience here. You actually consciously have to revisit it as if it's a new instrument to you and discover that kind of curiosity and a particular passion that comes from just discovering new things. And this is challenging when you've been playing for a while, but is the big secret. Okay, let's talk about specifically practicing to be you. All the preamble before I think is really important to set the scene for what we're going to do and to understand how important this is. And this is a process that we need to get into. So you need to develop the skills for this to work. It's not an excuse for not doing any work. You need to use all the tools at your disposal. You need to have them at your disposal. So you need to have done the work on technique and rhythm and time and feel and groove and tone and your ear training and just everything needs to be in place for you to be able to take these particular steps that we're going to talk about. So as I've mentioned in previous videos, I owe a lot to the great slide guitar player Dave Tronzo, who I studied with for a good while. And I remember the first thing that he got us to do was an exercise where you had to play your song. You know, for many people this was the first time they put a slide on, and they were being asked to pick up their guitar and play for 30 seconds, for a minute, to play their music, their song. What have they got to say on the instrument? And this was very confronting for a lot of people. But I think this is a really good place to start. Firstly, I would suggest playing pure melody. Okay, so don't worry about key, just let your playing go where your ear wants it to. So I'll demonstrate a little bit here. This isn't going to be perfect. That's the whole point. I'm exposing myself. I'm being very vulnerable here, which is what you need to do when you work on this stuff, and why it's so confronting, because in some ways it's easier to kind of hide behind someone else's solo that you've copied, or, you know, play someone else's song rather than reveal what you have to say. But the more you do this, I think, the better. Pure melody. I'm just following my ear. Nothing else. I'm not thinking about anything. I'm just trying to see what happens. Some people, you know, talk about this as it's like following a thread, or chasing the muse. You know, it's trying to discover what sounds are in there without being restricted by, oh, well, I must play in this scale shape, or using this scale, or I must use this device, or I have to play in this particular style. None of that. You're just exposing, being vulnerable, exposing yourself to, you know, what comes out when you play. And it may not, and in fact, in many times, it doesn't sound as fancy as the stuff you've been practicing. A very interesting exercise you can do, which is slightly off topic here, but, you know, if you sing yourself playing, record yourself singing a solo over a backing track, and then transcribe it many, many times, what you discover is it's way simpler than what you would have played. Normally, you know, your hand or the slide is just running away with itself without being connected to your musical ear, just because you've learnt stuff, and, you know, it just comes out almost muscle memory wise. But what comes out when you sing is what's really in your head, and we'll get into that in a minute. So another approach to this so that was pure melody. Another approach is to look at, well, let's play pure harmony. So what I'm going to do here, I personally like doing this with double stops, just a pair of notes, simply because it's a little bit easier with the slide to pick a note with the slide and a fretted note, and that can suggest the sound of a number of different chords. This is something I'm going to get into in a future video, but for now, what I'm trying to do is just hear a harmonic progression, to hear chords and to be able to play them with the slide. You can practice this without the slide if this is too tricky. Again, I'm not limited to scales, keys, anything like that. I'm just following my ear and trying to create chord sounds based on what I'm hearing. So again, I'm trying to dig deep just to hear what sounds are occurring to me and then trying to find them on the guitar. And this is why having your knowledge on the guitar is so important. Like, and I don't mean like in terms of note names or anything like that. It's more instinctive knowledge, like, oh, I hear this sound, where is it on the guitar? This takes a lot of work. This is one way of doing that, but you'll find initially it's really, really hard, and you're playing sounds that don't sound like what you were expecting in your ear. So as I said at the beginning, this is not an easy process. This takes some time, but what you're trying to do is really drag out what you're hearing and feeling inside. Now, I think to go even further into this, you can start to involve your voice. So what's inside here comes out through your voice, and then that can be translated to the guitar. Now, this doesn't matter if you can sing or not. This is not about singing. I'm not a singer. I can make sounds with my voice. You can do this in your head. You can sing out loud. You might want to just make sure you're practicing somewhere where no one else can hear you if you're shy about this. But I think this is a very organic process which will really help you develop the sounds that are in here and getting them out onto the guitar. So I apologize immediately for my singing, which I will try and keep quiet. But what I'm trying to do is follow my voice and really connect the two things together. That's probably all you need to hear of my singing. One of the other great benefits of doing this is you're forced to take a breath. So the big challenge with the guitar is that you can just keep playing and until your fingers tire out without taking a breath. It's not like singing or a saxophone or some instrument that you need to blow into and create the sound that way. So singing helps you with your phrasing as well, which is very important. So it's not just finding the notes, it's actually trying to find out, how you phrase naturally, what is your phrasing like. Okay, the other big category of things that I think you can get into to help you with this is composition and songwriting. Now, I've got two thoughts here. One of them is taking other people's songs and arranging them in your own way is wonderful composition practice. So it doesn't matter what it is, it can be very, very simple. It could be, Happy Birthday, Amazing Grace, something with a really strong melody. You could take a pop song, you could take your favorite song, whatever. It doesn't really matter what it is, although I'd start simple, and start changing it to be more like you. So I think you actually discover a lot of what you are through that process. So, maybe just take the raw melody and change the chords, or play it in a different style or a different time signature, or change the phrasing, change the rhythm of it. There are so many things you can do to make a song yours rather than just playing a straight cover of it. And the process that you go through doing that then informs your own original compositions. So it's highly valuable and a really good start to this. Then, of course, the next step can be writing your own music. And if you've not done this, this can be hard work and confrontational as well. You have to spend a lot of time on it. You come across all sorts of problems. You might have this great idea and then have no idea what to follow it with or what chords should go with it. But Like anything, you practice it, you develop your way of doing it. You just need to be prepared for it to take time. You don't have to do this, you don't have to write your own music to discover your own musical voice, but I think if you're interested in this process and want to take it further, then having your own music to show people, you know, stuff that you've created, is a big part of it, because creativity really doesn't exist unless something has been created. So it could be that you just want to write a song. Maybe you want to write something with vocals or instrumental. Maybe you want to do an EP or an album, or maybe you want to have a set of music that you can play live. You know, all of this process would then involve you digging deep to create stuff. I'll say a couple more things about that. One is, as I say, you have to practice it. You need to do it every day. You need to just set some time aside. Maybe it's only 10 or 15 minutes, but you just keep going to the coal face, trying to write things. You can record onto your phone little ideas. You can write stuff down. Sometimes I'll video myself playing something that I've come up with, just to make sure that I play it in the same way. Particularly if it's in an open tuning I'm less familiar with, I want to make sure I'm playing the same voicings and everything. Whatever you need to do. And don't be too judgmental. You know, there's a great thing about writing for the garbage can. You know, just write and don't judge it. If it's rubbish, great, throw it away, go on to the next one. You would be surprised with the great songwriters and your heroes, you know, how many songs have ended up in the bin before you hear that great song of theirs. This is a whole process, a whole thing to get into, but I think, you know, is very, very valuable if you want the world to hear your unique voice. So to wrap this up, this has all been about what contribution can you make to the world with your guitar playing? What do you sound like? What's your unique musical DNA? You know, we hear the great guitar players, they have their own voice. We know them instantly when we hear the first few notes. You know, you hear a player like Derek Trucks and you just know it's him. You hear B.B. King, you hear Stevie Ray Vaughan, you hear any of the great players, you hear Miles Davis. Doesn't matter what instrument it's on, they have a voice. And this is something that you have to work towards if that's your goal. And as I say, my belief is that that should be your goal. I'm not suggesting you dispense with the conventional learning process. You've got to have all the musical skills at your disposal to be able to do this. This is not a shortcut. This is not a, oh, well, I don't need to do all that other stuff. I just kind of sit here and, you know, make sounds. I'm not suggesting that at all. I believe you need the tools to do this. But what I see time and time again amongst students is that they haven't taken this extra step. They've worked really hard on trying to sound like their heroes, and that's fantastic, and a whole discipline, and you know, some of them do an amazing job of like emulating these players, and it's incredible. But at a certain point, for many people, that can get frustrating and they feel trapped. What I've talked about today, I hope, will inspire you, if you feel in that situation, to go further. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, comment below, subscribe. A big thank you to all the Patreon subscribers. You guys get bonus footage, behind the scenes stuff, archived resources, all sorts of other bits and pieces. Hugely appreciate your support. Thank you. If you'd like to become a Patreon patron of the channel, please see the link below. If this is the latest video in the series, the resources will be available on the One Finger Guitarist website. Again, see the link below. Happy sliding!